So just to let you know that that's happening. So now that I've started the recording, and because it should be available to people after the session has ended, I'm just going to introduce the session a little bit. So this is the final session of London Met's Introduction to Entrepreneurship. We've run 5 different lectures over the last 5 weeks, and we dealt with things like customer discovery, defining problems, ideation, and also how to pitch. So that's been what we've done over the course of the last 4 weeks. And today it's the final session, and we decided that the focus of this session would be to put you in touch directly with people who've got experience of entrepreneurship themselves, having run their own businesses. And I'm absolutely delighted that we're joined today by 3 people, particularly. So Hikmat is the co-founder of Humo Partners, and also Team University in Tashkent. Marian Marinkat, who is the founder and CEO of Mumbly, and Marian was previously a student at London Metropolitan University studying banking and finance, and has moved on to create his own startup. He's based here at London Met in our incubator building, and Marian's business is focused on the culture of audio and creating greater awareness, which he will tell us about later. And Natasha Triay, sorry, I should say, is a graduate of the School of Social Entrepreneurs and set up her own social enterprise previously, but now works for London Metropolitan University as a manager of student enterprise. We're also going to be joined, I think, later by Naili Vakania, who was a winner of last year's competition and developed a business called Sapo. And just to set all of this in context, the course we're doing is really part of the British Council's Creative Spark programme, which runs in 7 countries across Central Asia, the Caucasus and the Balkans. And London Metropolitan University is working for the British Council to deliver a competition that's available for all of the participants in the Creative Spark programme. And the Creative Spark programme, in a nutshell, aims to develop expertise and capacity around entrepreneurship, but particularly in this key area of the creative industries. And I think, you know, there's no better time than now to be thinking about the importance of innovation, entrepreneurship, and small and medium-sized enterprises, and the impact that they can have on addressing the kinds of problems we're going to be looking at in the near future, unexpectedly, as a result of the COVID crisis. So I think that's enough from me. I should just introduce myself. So I'm Chris Lane, and I'm a head of department at London Metropolitan University. I'm responsible for programs linked to community development, and social entrepreneurship is a big part of my area of interest. And Sandra, would you like to just quickly introduce yourself?
Yes, sure. My name is Sandra, and I'm project managing the Creative Spark Big Idea Challenge competition for about 2 years. Yeah, and I'm very excited about today's session.
And I'm delighted that we've got so many people joining us as participants. And just to say to you all that as we're going through this session, it's really important for us that you think up questions that you would like to ask our guest entrepreneurs, and we will field those to them after they've made quick introductions themselves to their work and their backgrounds, and then we hope to have a really interactive session today. So with that said, please could I hand over to Hikmat?
Thank you, Chris. I would like to greet participants as well. Based on the names I see in the list, majority are from Central Asia, from Caucasus, and some other countries, and UK most probably. Chris and Sandra asked me to briefly share my journey in entrepreneurship, and just about 10 minutes probably what it was to be an entrepreneur, and very briefly on the new project we are starting now, which is also very much linked with entrepreneurship and education. So I think it's going to be interesting. I have just a very few slides, and I think you can see the first slide already, which shows the portfolio of brands we have. It's it is an umbrella company, HM Partners, that includes more than 10 projects we run in Uzbekistan for almost 15 years, and they differ in terms of their activities, but more or less they actually comprise and add value to the same target audience, which is small and medium enterprises. So what we do in Uzbekistan since 2006 is help local SMEs to start their businesses. And we do that through providing various services. It started as a startup, as a classical new venture, when me and several of my course mates from the university, we decided to quit from government positions, because when we used to study at the University of World Economy and Diplomacy, we were trained to be civil servants, we were trained to be diplomats, we were trained to be officials of the various ministries that work for foreign economic relations activity. After spending several years, I personally worked for the Ministry of Foreign Trade. Two of my partners, one of them worked for the State Bank and the second worked for Ministry for Foreign Affairs. We suddenly realized that we want to challenge ourselves. And at one of the occasions when we were sitting at some party, I just came back from St. Andrews doing my graduate degree there. It was an interesting conversation when we suddenly, very emotionally, what entrepreneurs do on a regular basis, they start to change their lives. So we made our mind that we want to quit and we want to start something that never has been done in our country. So if you go back mentally to 2005, 2006, you can imagine a country which was quite isolated, which was not very much open in terms of competition, in terms of goods and services. So we decided we want to start a business from China, providing various services to local SMEs. And we packed our luggage, and within a month, we decided to leave Uzbekistan. So we started our business in Guangzhou, and within a year, obviously, we didn't have any sales. It was mostly exploring, understanding what the needs are, what we can offer to the local companies, how we can serve as a bridge between Chinese suppliers and Uzbek companies. And interestingly, we actually did a great job by really focusing on that thing. Although we didn't have any research proving that this service is needed, but again, intuitively, we were looking for specific services. Specifically, we were helping to load the containers, provide services, really link both sides, because internet and sourcing materials were not quite perfect at those days. So now it's much more obvious. If you want to find something for yourself, if you want to source some information, Alibaba and many other sources actually provide very good B2B services and information. So that was a start of our business, and that business is still very successful. The brand that provides this B2B services is called Uzbek Chinese Trading House, so it's between Uzbekistan and China. But we decided that we don't want to limit ourselves to that, and we started to add additional services. And you can see them on slide. We have launched a business tourism company that started to provide help to those who want to participate at certain exhibition, who want to visit some factory, participate some conference. So it's a classical MICE service. And at those days, again, this was not something that was very ordinary in terms of providing this service. So IBT, International Business Travel, became a very successful tourism company, and we started to send back and forth delegations of businessmen. And then we discovered that they don't want to travel only to China, so we expanded our services to other countries. So initially it was China business travel, then it became international business travel. So after that, we added additional services, and it became like a one-stop shop for Uzbek companies who want to explore, who want to start their businesses. So from the idea, quite like an advisory service, we were consulting our customers to find new niches, to look for new projects, Then we added additional services of logistics, sourcing, finance. We started quite a successful financial arm. It's like a financial leasing. Now, China Leasing Group, that's the name of the leasing company, is among top 3 biggest private leasing companies in Uzbekistan. So one by one, we were adding these businesses. So we became quite a big player in the market. Now it is called HM Partners, but it includes international trade, finance. We have built our own business center. Then we decided that we want to contribute to the development of local business community, and we started more social projects like co-working spaces. Now we have 6 co-working spaces under the brand of Ground Zero in Tashkent and Samarkand cities. Now we also integrated supplies of medical equipment, because medical industry, after actually these changes within 3-4 years, when in Uzbekistan's reform started and we have new government in place that is radically changing the environment. So Uzbekistan now and Uzbekistan back 5 years ago, it's a completely different 2 stories. So yeah, so this is pretty much what we do. We provide services to local companies. So starting from the last year, since we decided we want to be active in social entrepreneurship, we decided that we want to enter into higher education. That became possible. For 28 years, there was not even one private higher education in the country. So you can imagine what a big demand was there for good quality education. So you're seeing us on the map in Central Asia. You see the brief statistics about higher education situation, and on this slide you can see the current situation where Uzbekistan is in a pretty bad condition in terms of higher education coverage, and majority, like 99%, are state operators, like it's state universities. So very recently, within 1 year, there were several international branches that launched their services, their branches in Uzbekistan, and very few universities. And actually, we're among the first ones, and especially if you talk about entrepreneurship, we are the only one. We're the first entrepreneurship university in the country. On this slide, you can see the founders and the main team who is running this project. And I would like to thank here Chris and the British Council, UK Embassy, who was really very instrumental in terms of understanding what is the landscape of higher education in the UK, because we wanted to connect and collaborate with champions in UK. And so within a year or so, we've been working on this idea. Now on this slide, you can see our potential campus building, which will be obviously renovated. And this is how it's going to look like. And we are very excited about our new project. And I think that's what really says you a lot about entrepreneurs. They are always self-motivated. They always look for new opportunities. They always want to really impact the society. And with this team university, we definitely want to impact Uzbekistan's growth. And that's our way how we decided to do that. And so that is our vision, how we would like to develop and grow. And I hope that this session is going to be interactive. I can see that we have more than, what, 20, 30 participants, yeah? Maybe more people who would be watching this afterwards as well. So in case someone is excited about higher education, works in education, we would be happy to collaborate. We've been traveling around the region. We've been to Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, 5 Central Asian countries, Ukraine and Russia, and we've been looking for experience and interesting people in higher education. So that is pretty much my slides about our recent project, and I tried to give you a brief picture of what it was and what it is to be an entrepreneur in Uzbekistan. Sandra, Chris,
Hikmat, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Well, that was a really interesting introduction to the background of your, strategy and thinking, and interesting stories about the, genesis of your decision making, having been a student, and the preparation for working in the public sector and then the move to the private sector. I did just want to say, before we move on to invite Marion to speak, that we've been asking everybody to contribute in the chat window. And we were wondering why not many people were saying very much, and I realised it's because I forgot to turn the participants chat on. So now I've done that. For the people who sent us messages on Telegram to say we can't chat, so you can now. And just to repeat that we're very keen to hear your ideas about questions that you would like to raise with Hikmat and Marion and Natasha later. So do keep any questions coming in. And also I noticed that Marion, you suggested that people might want to, in 5 words, highlight what business idea they have, which is a rather good idea. So if you'd like to respond to Marion's suggestion in the chat window, that would be really nice as well. So can I hand over now to Marion then?
Yes, let's do that. Thank you very much, Hikmat. That was extremely interesting. And I am now going to pass on to Marion.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you, Hikmat. It was very interesting to have an insight into the business scene in Uzbekistan. So that was very interesting indeed. And well done for the, the project. I'm sure it's quite challenging, but definitely rewarding. I would like to, I'm not sure if you can see my slides now because they disappeared off my screen.
Let me share them again.
Okay. So I thought about this, and there are various ways in which I can talk about 18 years of being an entrepreneur, but I thought about telling you why I think being an entrepreneur is absolutely amazing, and I think it is the best thing ever. I will never do anything else. And some people may ask themselves why, but just because for some it's very difficult. But very simply put, for me, is first of all, you do what you want. You do it with who you want to do it. So you have an idea and you have a few people around you, you do it with the people you want to do it with. Then you make things happen. Of course, you break things as well, and that's also fun, and it's also fine. But then you meet people, you travel. So all these things to me are absolutely crucial to keep you motivated to carry on being an entrepreneur. So, sorry, that's quite loud. Okay, moving on. You can also create your own world. So not only that, you do what you want, you work with who you want, but you create your own world because we all have ideas, which is why I kind of pushed that question in the chat room to open up the brain to, we all think about ideas all the time. How we walk on the street, we see something, we would want that particular experience to be different. And as an entrepreneur, you have that ability and that drive and that craziness to actually want to do something about an issue, a problem, or an opportunity that you see. But at the same time, what are the best ideas? How do you know which one to go with? Every day we might have different 5 ideas. So I'm just going to tell you a bit about me and kind of my journey through entrepreneurship very, very briefly. So my name is Marion Barancat. I was born in Romania. And I had my first company when I was 16. It was a home cleaning business. The next 3 companies later, it was an interior design business, totally different. Then 3 other companies later, it was an insurance brokerage company, nothing to do with the previous ones. And then solar panels, and then a marketing agency. And I made money quite nicely, actually. I traveled a lot, I still do, but I traveled a lot and bought things, you know, cars, clothes, the shiniest things you can imagine, because that's what I saw as value at the time. But then I lost everything because the financial crash came. So that was interesting. So new ideas and start again from scratch. And then I decided to move to London. And the first thing I did, I went back to school. So I started my second degree in banking and finance at London Met. And I think it was the best thing I could have done. I studied English in the most profound way possible. It's not that I didn't know English. Of course, I was able to speak English. I was already doing business internationally somehow, but it wasn't good enough for me. So I studied finance, because then you come up with new ideas and you nurture new ideas from the new things that you learn or experience. And for me, this was the best journey I could have gone through. And some of the recent highlights in my personal experience as an entrepreneur. So I've been selected twice to represent the UK in Argentina and Japan at the G20 Entrepreneur Summits. And then last year, after the second appearance, I was recruited to join the UK leadership team. So I'm very passionate about entrepreneurship as a whole, and that's one of the highlights. But then in 2017, I sold one of the companies I set up in 2014. And that was great because it allowed me to take 4 months of holiday after that. So that was good. And then I started Mumbly. So Mumbly took life as part of the accelerator. And in 2018, we won the Startup of the Year award as part of the launch program, which, if you don't know of, you should learn about. We are very excited that we're solving a big problem, which is around sound in social spaces, and I absolutely love it. And the team we have is amazing, and we learn are absolutely fantastic. You probably noticed I don't talk much about how much money I made, and because I don't think that's truly important as an entrepreneur. It is, of course, important because it keeps you going, but it's something else that drives us to be connected to entrepreneurship. This slide is not to complicate things for you. I just want to show you that Mumbly is designed to solve a big problem, which is that the world is too noisy. And so the product that we will develop today may be a different product in a year's time, but the problem would be the same. So the problem we're solving is the same problem. So that's to say, go for it as big a problem as you can, because then you can develop different solutions and come up with all these ideas in that ecosystem of that problem. But obviously everyone does it as they wish. This is my experience. So with Mumbly, we develop an app, we develop a platform. The idea is you go out in bars, restaurants to meet your friends based on the ambience level in the time of the space. So sound and how noisy the place is. So you can choose that in real time from your app. So that's pretty much what it is at the moment. Now, this is the team, and I'm not going to take you through who the team is, but it's a very strong team. And the moment you start working with people that are smarter than you, that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur again. Because as an entrepreneur, you can have multiple skills, but you work with people that are smarter than you. And that makes it crazy valuable. We work with universities, we have interns, we put all the time internships out there. So that's one of the beauties of being part of this. I put this here not to preach. No one needs to do anything, of course, but I wish I've learned more before I failed, because then I would have, I don't know, I would have taken a different path, and I would have probably joined different people to teach me how to do business, instead of just going with the entourage I had at the time. So that's probably what I would suggest. Kind of open your mind to learning, absorbing information from smarter people than you, training yourself all the time, whether you're 20 or you're 45, it doesn't matter. It's a constant evolving thing. And finally, we are looking for an intern, and I just thought I'd put this here. Maybe you want to apply, maybe not, it doesn't matter. But this is my email. Drop in a few words about it, and I'll reply and invite you for a 30-minute chat. Even if you don't want to carry on and you simply want to carry on the conversation today, ask questions, those are my contact details. And that's it. Thank you for listening. I hope that was useful.
Thanks so much, Marion. That's fantastic.
Thank you, Marion.
So we're now going to move on to hear from Natasha Triai. And Natasha's going to tell us a bit about her own journey.
Hey, can you see me all right?
Yes.
We should stop the slides and then we'll be able to see you better. And just to remind people that if you use the little button in the top right-hand corner of your screen, you can switch to, let me see what it's called. Sorry, you can switch to follow the speaker mode, and then you'll be able to see Natasha in full CinemaScope.
Oh, well, I won't be doing that for myself. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much to Hikmat and Marion. That was really interesting. And I'm going to share with you really briefly my journey of setting up a business and where it's taken me. And I want to show you because I want you to understand that you participating in this program, you don't know where it might take you, and I really want to encourage you to keep going with it because you're potentially opening up new doors and you're going to shape your own future. And I'm going to share with you some learnings that I've had as well, and I hope that this will really help to motivate you to keep going. So I was always a very studious young girl, and I had ambitions to go to university to become a lawyer. That didn't happen. And I went instead and studied film and media. Took a long time for me to complete that at university, and I think my parents were shocked when I finally graduated. And then for a number of years after that, I did a couple of short films after university, and I realised that it wasn't really something that I was passionate about, and spent quite a number of years in different roles, marketing, events, did a lot of selling, working with makeup, different luxury perfume brands, but none of this was really satisfying. And I had always been somebody that was quite full of life and very confident. I was head girl at high school. I was always used to doing a lot of different presentations and public speaking, but it actually got to the point where I was really unconfident and my own self-esteem kind of went all the way down to the point where I remember going to the cinema and I struggled to ask for a cinema ticket. And I think I had just got to this point in life where I was very dissatisfied at what I was doing. So one day I was at my parents' house and my dad's friend, who I'd always known, came round and we had a conversation, and he explained about a social enterprise that he had been working on for the past few years. And this was the first time I'd heard what a social enterprise was. And something just clicked inside me, and I thought that is exactly what I need to be doing. So we spent a whole afternoon and we mapped out an idea, and it all came from me. He coached me through looking at what my skills were, what my passions were, what my values were in life, and we mapped out an idea. Now, where I was a place in Fife, and Hikmat, you spoke about St Andrews, so I'm from the bottom of Fife, Dunfermline, and St Andrews is at the very top of Fife. And in between these two larger towns, there are very small towns that are surrounded by beautiful landscape, but you go into these towns and they're very grey. They're grey buildings and they're grey people. And what's happened there is that there's a massive amount of unemployment, a lot of unemployment. There used to be mining villages, and that stops. And since then, what happens is a cycle of disadvantage where parents will become unemployed and the children will have no role models, and it had a lot of other issues that kind of stem from there. So I wanted to make a difference in these villages and use the skills that I had. So I applied for a program called the School of Entrepreneurs, and still at this point I was very nervous, and I remember 30 seconds I had to speak for, and I had a piece of paper because I was worried I will forget what I was going to say. And that really, for me, was a fantastic turning point in my life. I met so many different people that just wanted to help me. I was the youngest person on the programme. Most other people were kind of going towards retirement age. And I built relationships there. I still have people, this was 8 years ago now, and I still have people that I speak to quite regularly from that programme that mentored me. And I worked, basically used a lot of the contacts that I had. I worked in high schools in that area. There were 17 altogether, and I worked with the bottom 9 that were in the most disadvantaged areas, and they were given extra funding from the Scottish Government. So my project was able to make money from these schools because they had money set aside and allocated for the projects that I did. Now I would work with young girls, and I started off by doing kind of manicures and facials, and I wanted them to feel I wanted their self-worth to be increased. And when I started working with them, I realised I have to do a lot more. So this developed into a programme, and I did workshops like how how using social media can impact on our self-esteem, what self-esteem is, how can we increase our self-esteem, self-efficacy, and really working with these girls. Whenever I saw an interest in them in something in particular, I would grab hold of that. And for me, it was helping them to become more of a person instead of going into these other areas which were having a very negative impact on their life. So I did this for a year and a half, and I received about £8,000 in grant funding. I had a mentor from the Bank of Scotland. I worked with many people, different charities, and I really had people to feed into my idea. I was constantly getting feedback, and it was constantly growing. From there, the money from the Scottish Government was cut, so I had seen a job at the Prince's Trust, a charity in London, and I applied for this job, and the job was helping young people from disadvantaged areas to set up a business. Now, by no means I was an expert at this point at all. I'd probably had about a year and a half of working my way through and learning how to set up a business. And then I found myself delivering a 4-day programme to people that were about my age on how to set up a business. And then I did this for a couple of years. Then I went to Queen Mary University in London, which is a very academic university, lots of research projects. I worked there for a couple of years, helping mostly PhD students to commercialise their projects. And now I've come to Accelerator, London University, where I have been for a couple of years, and probably in the last 7 years, I've worked with hundreds of young people in a whole array of different businesses, and I absolutely love what I do. Seeing other people reach their full potential really gives me a lot of satisfaction. And I would just want to say that some things that have helped me was at that beginning, establishing what my personal values were has helped to guide me, and it's helped me to understand who I should work with, but it's helped me to keep the vision and the focus for not just business, but for my life, I would say. I would also say you can learn anything. So for those of you in the session last week, we did talk about identifying where your weaknesses are so you can fill these gaps. But I would say that you can learn anything. You know, I was absolutely awful at spreadsheets, and at the Prince's Trust, that's when I started delivering a full day of finance on tax and national insurance and pricing goods. And I learned that. And if anybody can learn it, if I can learn it, anybody can learn it. I would also say something for me that's been really important is building and nurturing relationships. So as I said, from 8 years ago, I still keep in contact with people that I place a lot of importance on back then, and I do really try to nurture relationships. I place a high importance on that. And in my current job, where we're delivering a number of programs to students, I have a lot of people that want to give back, and I do believe that's because I place high importance on keeping in contact with these people. It's not just about asking them to mentor for the program, but it's really about a friendship I've developed with them as well. And I'd also say that you need to be adaptable and be resilient. I think that I've seen it's very important to be able to bounce back and not take any rejection or any failures as a negative. You want to turn that into a positive and learn from it. So I don't like using the word failing in a negative way. I think it's a really positive word. You can learn from it and you can apply, and that's when you develop a new growth, when your idea grows as well. And you have that ability to be able to spring back and be adaptable. So I would say that entrepreneurship has been hard work, especially in those beginning days where instead of social events I went to, I did lots of networking, meeting people. I did a lot of studying. I did counselling training for my own project. But I would say that this whole journey has changed my life and it's been amazing. And I really hope that by you participating in this programme, it can help to change your life too. And that's the end.
Natasha, thanks so much. Well, that's been a tremendously interesting round of accounts from three quite diverse perspectives. What we're going to do now, we've probably used a bit more time than we anticipated with hearing directly from our entrepreneurs, and I can see that quite a few questions have come in from the audience. I thought what I might try and do is, we may run a little bit over, incidentally, we may run a bit over the 45 minutes, but I thought what we might try and do is hear directly from some people who've asked questions. So I'm actually going to give, let's see if we can make this work. So to see if Victoria Martiro Soyan, who has asked a question, whether Victoria, would you like to see if you can ask us the question directly? Because I've given you the ability to speak using your microphone now, if you would like. I don't know whether it's possible for you to do that.
Yes,
Victoria.
I can do it. Hello.
Hi.
I wanted to ask if being in a team and that has not all the skills to implement their idea, that means I need to hire another person to make it real. Is it okay, or I need to start a business in a field where I am okay to do it by my own?
Okay, well, Victoria, I think you've captured something really quite significant as a question, which is how do you get started, and what the dilemmas are. How much investment do you need? Can you rely on the skills of your own team? How do you turn things from being an idea into a reality? And I noticed that there was another question from another participant which asked a similar question and asked it very specifically in relation to the situation in Uzbekistan. So that was Kolmorodova Maksad, who asked the question, a similar question really, about how to get started in Uzbekistan. So I just wondered, could we go round the group and hear what you wanted to say? And also, I'm just going to highlight that we've been joined by Naili. So a very warm welcome, Naili. I'm going to also give you the opportunity to speak if you'd like. So in answering the question, maybe we could go to Marion first, and then Hikmat, and then Natasha, and then if Naili, you'd like to come in and say anything in response to Victoria's question.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, to Victoria's question, thanks, Victoria. It was, first of all, it's really always brave to come first forward with a question. So well done for that. I think that the challenge with starting anything is when you're alone. And so if you're alone, you tend to think about how to start too much, and then you go with the whole thinking process too far because you don't know, you can't predict the future. So then the best thing to do from the beginning is to find someone or an institution where you join with other people that are either trying other ideas, or they want to try it with you, or you need to share that kind of energy that comes from an idea. So before you start anything, probably is the best thing, I would say one thing would be try and find a person or a place where you would feel comfortable starting something, because there are other people around that are similar to you. So with Hikmat's presentation, I think that's becoming clearly a reality. So that would be my encouragement.
Thank you
yes.
very much.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sure.
So should I continue, Chris?
Yes, please.
Yeah, responding to the question about the competences and skills set necessary to start a new venture, I would say that I'm a big fan of partnerships. If I don't have the skill necessary, I would be looking for a person who is ready to partner with me and who is equally excited about this idea and start to do it in partnership. For almost 15 years, I've been doing that. I don't say that it's always successful. My personal statistics is 50-50. In 50% of cases, it is they were like failures, but I think it's okay. Never in entrepreneurship you would have 100% guarantee that you will succeed. So I would prefer doing in partnership, but at the same time, if you don't find anyone who is ready to partner in that specific area where you need to be strong at, I think it's okay to hire people. And with our last, I mean, the newest project we're in, higher education, I've never run anything in academic world. I've never done any business projects in education, but I've been a student for many times. So I know what it is to be a participant or a beneficiary of higher education. At the same time, we are so lucky to have wonderful people who are equally excited about something new. And when I say something new, I mean to launch a private higher education institution. So it's great that we have found these people. And I think you always find people who are excited. It's just a matter of looking in the right way and being very outspoken and articulate to really share your views on what you want to do. Yeah, that's my response.
Yeah, and I think it's quite interesting to hear. One suggestion from Hikmat is to really use the method of partnership, and Marian's suggestion is, you know, building networks and finding the right space to be in so that you're surrounded by like-minded people. Sound like two great ideas. Natasha, do you want to come back with any response to the question?
Hi there. Yes, thanks for the question, Victoria. I mean, starting a business is challenging because, especially at the beginning, you've got to be a jack of all trades. You've got to wear a marketing hat, finance hats, communication hats, and like you, when you've got an idea at the beginning, it's hard to know how to be an expert in all these areas, and you don't need to be. I would say that, you know, one thing that we do at the university is bringing people together with lots of different skills. So we might run a weekend where we've got computer science students with marketing students, business students, and they create an idea from using their different skill sets. There's something really powerful. You can create something so much more. So I would say that understand what your skill set is, and depending on what business you are setting up, to look for other people to join in and to help that business flourish.
Thanks, Natasha. And I'm going to just introduce Naili Vakana, who was one of the winners from last year's Big Idea Challenge competition. Naili, I don't know if you can turn your microphone on or your video on so that we can see you, but I just thought you might have some insight into the question that was raised here, because you know, you were one of the people who succeeded not just in being a winner for the competition, but actually you were one of the people who actually managed to get your business up and running. I know it's probably facing some challenges now at the moment in these difficult times, but I think that you actually, you know, you achieved sales. And I just wondered whether you might have some insight into how you managed to transform from, you know, not operating to quite quickly being in a position where you were achieving sales.
Hello everyone. Do you hear me? I don't know.
Yes, we hear you well.
Do you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So hello, I'm Naili, and I'm an entrepreneur, and we have a startup. It's a Sapo. Maybe I can introduce it a little bit, or just like say
Yes,
about my.
Absolutely, feel free.
Okay. So we have a soap which is for children, and this soap has like conception. And when children doesn't want to wash their hands, so we make like stories, books where like this last page is hidden inside of the soap, so children are motivated to wash their hands, and they will find this answer in their books. So our goal was to make some product which is like different from the market, and we want to make each of our product like with conceptions. For example, for next project, we decided to make soap buildings, which are called cultural heritage buildings, and it makes people to think about the cultural heritage, which is disappearing. For example, for new architecture. So we started our startup about 2.5 years ago, and we were from beginning 2 people, and I was left alone, and I started to search people, partners, because like doing these things alone is very difficult for me, because there's a lot of things to do, like creating these stories, creating soaps, like packaging, also marketing, and we have a lot of problem in like different ways. And I met a lot of people, and I worked with a lot of people, and now like we changed a lot of people, and now we are 2 in our team. And still, I think we have problems with team, because like without having a lot of people, it's very difficult to make everything. So after participating in the Big Idea Challenge, I don't know. Oh, I think my video is like so. Sorry. So it's now. So after participating in a Big Idea Challenge competition, we won a prize. And with this prize, we decided to make a little, not factory, but something like this. We have a garage, and we want to renovate this. But due to the situation in the world, everything is stopped, and now we are working on this. And so, for example, I will show you this thing. This is like box of our soap, which is wooden, and also this box was made by ourselves. And now we decided after this like prize to hire people, not hire, but to hire people, and to ask them to make these boxes for ourselves, because it's like we need some other things to do. So like I think it's like better to hire somebody if you have like if you can do it, or like it will be expanded in time, because when we were alone, and then sometimes I was alone, I was still doing things, but it's like expanded in time. So yeah.
Thank you, Naili. Sandra, how would you like to proceed? Because we were going to share the fielding of the questions. I did think that there was one that we could take from, let me just check back. Well, Sandra, did you have any particular questions that you wanted to field to any of our guests, or how do you want to proceed?
I'm happy to just pick out some questions that we received from the audience today.
I mean, there was one that I
have
thought,
not been monitoring the chat in the past couple of.
Yeah. Sandra, let me say, because I thought there was one that would be quite interesting to hear, if we could hear a very brief account from each person on what their biggest failure, what has been in the period that they've been working. And if anybody has been monitoring the chat, they're kind of interested in developing their English, they'll notice the comment from Alex. So this is really a response to Alex's question, where he's used some very colourful English in describing.
Sorry, I'm just conscious that Hikmat has left us, and Natasha is going to jump off in 6 minutes, so we need to get questions going.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's hear from everybody who's still in the room. What are your biggest failures?
I would say my biggest failure would probably be not having done it sooner, because it really did change my life. And what I've learned from that is that I take every opportunity now. And I think probably before, I was maybe more in my head, and I would have doubt, can I do this? Is this appropriate time? And that would hold me back. Whereas now I take opportunities, and I'm quite a yes person. That's what I've learned from it, I would say.
Marion.
Yeah, Alex has So Alex's language is not so rude, actually. At G20 Entrepreneurs, each summit, no, but this is really interesting because at each summit, there is a session which is called the fuck up session, where entrepreneurs from around the world come on stage, and this is all live. They come on stage and they share the real story about their, when they made the biggest mistakes. And it's called like that because there's this myth around, oh, the entrepreneur life is so glamorous and it's great and there are never problems, but in fact, there are always problems. So my biggest one took years to realize I was doing it, and it's called arrogance. I was very arrogant. I thought I know everything. I was really trying to hold on to my thoughts and ideas, and that's a waste of time and energy. So my biggest one is arrogance, and I encourage you to let it go, as in, don't fall in love too much with your ideas and your own beliefs. There are other people who see it differently from the outside.
Niali, any failures that you'd like to highlight? Okay. Sandra, do you have any other questions that you'd like to field?
Maybe I think one more that I'd like to, that is one of the ones that we had received in advance, Chris, that I'd like to ask is, what is the main challenge but also benefit of being an entrepreneur rather than being an employee?
Marion, would you like to take that one?
Sorry, I didn't quite hear the question.
What would you say is the main challenge but also the main benefit of being an entrepreneur rather than just being an employee at a corporate company?
Okay, I think it's the same. It's one answer for both, which is you sometimes you feel alone, and that's just because you are ahead, right? So you don't follow. You are the person telling your team what to do. You are the person asking people to do stuff for you. So then you're ahead, and you're alone because everyone is challenging you. You don't have, if you have people around you that are not challenging you, you need to change that because they're just nice. So, and at the same time, that's the greatest thing. It's just amazing to be able to move so easily with your ideas without having to ask for permission. So it's one thing which is both. It's both challenging to be alone, but it's also great to be that person who drives the boat in a way. Yeah.
Thank you.
I've just spotted some other questions, and I can see that Marion and Natasha have both responded in the chat window to a question about the fear that people have, especially in post-Soviet countries, of having their ideas stolen. And I just wondered, Naili, if you're still with us, do you want to respond to that? So would you say that that was a concern that you had? Oh, and I see we're saying goodbye to Natasha now. Thanks, Natasha. Naili, do you have any thoughts about the question of having ideas stolen? Were you worried about that?
Sorry, can you repeat the question about challenges of entrepreneurship, or?
I think that, the latest question that I was asking was whether at any point as you developed your business, you were worried about having your idea stolen, which was something that some of the participants are worried about.
Actually, sometimes I'm thinking about it, but I think it's I'm not afraid of it, because every time we are developing new ideas, yeah, I don't know if somebody will still here in Georgia. No, at that point we are on local market, and yeah, I think I'm not afraid of it.
Okay, thank you for that. And maybe one last question, unless you have any more, Sandra. I can see that Sophia has asked, what the best way of finding the right people are to work with you. Where can you find people to partner with and employ? And maybe that could go to Marion.
Sure. I try to answer on the chat room, not knowing if we have time to cover that.
Yeah.
I think back to the idea of having a partner. I think that's a great idea, to have a partner to go in. But you don't always find that partner, and you cannot just hold on to your idea until you find a partner. It would be good to just start doing something. So my one suggestion would be find someone who can build a prototype for you. So if you have an idea of a platform for something, go find a website that is $10, $15 a month and start building the thing, and see how people react to it. Share your idea with as many people as possible and see if you're getting are you crazy, or actually people actually want what your idea is. So that would be my suggestion. Build something cheap and fast to see how people around you react to it before you go into partnerships and build the whole business around an idea. Yeah.
Okay. Sandra, I think maybe we should close, but I had one last question I'd quite like to ask, but is there anything you'd like to, do you want to field anything else, Sandra?
No, I'm happy for you to.
Actually, I can see, sorry, I'm just reading a comment. Okay, yeah, so my last question, and this is to both Naili and Marion, is that, we're faced with quite difficult circumstances at the moment for running businesses. And Naili, I know for you that this has been an issue and it's interrupted the development of your work. And Marion, you were telling me that you're stuck in Portugal whilst your business is situated in London. So there are some kind of logistical problems, but I just wondered if there's anything that you would give in terms of advice about how to face the current circumstances.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm the only one seeing this message on the screen, but it tells me in 5 minutes we will all be disconnected. So that's just
okay.
Yeah, so we'll have to be short.
Okay, short. There's always a half full and half empty part of the same glass. Always, always, always. And you always have to look at the full part of the glass. And I find this as an opportunity to reset everything I do and everything I focus on, business-wise, personal-wise, everything. And that would be my advice. Look at the half that is full, not the empty one. Regardless how bad things are, there's always something positive.
And Naili?
Yeah, I think I'm agreeing on this because because of the situation, I was totally stopped. But I used it in a different way, and we started to develop new ideas, for example, and to use this time for developing new things for future. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Marion and Naili. Thank you so much for spending this time with us and for sharing your thoughts. Thanks to everybody in the audience for your really interesting questions. Thanks to Hikmat and Natasha, who've had to leave already. And I think just that on that last point about COVID, I wanted to remind everybody that we're running these sessions really predominantly because we're helping people to prepare for contributing to the Big Idea Challenge competition. And one of the things that we've announced in the last few days is that we have a special prize that we'll be giving for ideas that particularly address the COVID issue. Sandra, anything you want to add? By the way,
I think I'm just going to wrap it up because we're going to be disconnected soon. But as usual, we'll have the recording on the course. And Marion, thank you so much. Naili, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining. It was a very interesting session.
Oh, and one more thing, Sandra. I think we're going to send out a survey with some communications about how you found the course, whether you'd like more, what kinds of things you'd like for us in the future. So we'll be back in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. 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 Bye.